So the chair's report, I'm going to ask you to please bear with me a little bit today. My remarks might be a bit longer than on other occasions. It might even be more sermon-like than others. We'll see. You'll be the judge of that. So I'll start by saying that here we are at the end of the school year, and it's been unlike anything we've ever experienced in our lifetimes. We're also at the end of state budget negotiations. And regarding the end of the school year, we owe enormous gratitude to our educators. That's our teachers, our administrators, our counselors, nurses, paraprofessionals, coaches, teacher educators, and all who are involved with ensuring that our children are receiving the quality education and care that they deserve. This also includes commission staff. There's a hope that we can come stronger, emerge stronger after the pandemics we've experienced. We hope we're becoming better informed about what's important. There's a great public sentiment that acknowledges and has seen closer than ever that the quality of students, teachers, and how the supports that these teachers had and didn't have while transitioning to virtual teaching have been critical to keeping children learning and cared for during the pandemic. But the COVID pandemic took its toll on all of us, but a great toll especially on educators. According to CalSTRS, the retirement organization for teachers, we're looking at the second highest retirement rate in the history of CalSTRS, if not on par with what it was back in 2009, 2010 after the economic downturn. And if you all recall, in our teacher supply report that we heard in April, we saw that in the 2019-2020 year, California institutions prepared about 9,000 fully prepared teachers for the classroom. And if we add out-of-state credentials to that, it increases to a total of 12,000 fully prepared teachers, new teachers going into teaching that year. At the same time, we also issued a combined approximately 13,000 intern waivers or emergency type credentials. All right, so you've got those two figures, 12,000, 13,000. Now the Department of Education, the CDE, typically projects hiring needs of around 20,000 teachers each year and in recent years. We are, if you look at the numbers, we're producing about half the numbers of fully prepared teachers that we need to meet this demand. And we're filling classrooms with teachers who aren't fully credentialed. We have a severe shortage on our hands of teachers especially. And our governor and legislators have proposed a budget that's critical to the mission of strengthening, diversifying, and increasing our teaching force. One of our agenda items provides information on the ways the state budget will support our efforts here at the Commission. But we here at the Commission can only do so much. And in my time here, I've seen the work transformed in ways that takes on more responsibility for taking charge in this profession, for supporting efforts to increase preparation of teachers, for advocating for access and support and preparation, all the things that fall within our mandate. But we've been pushing these limits in the Commission. We have really been taking a stand, and we owe much of that to our executive director, Sandy, and her staff for pushing these limits, for being so invested in the quality of teachers for our children. But we've also always known that we have limited mandates and limited capacity and limited reach in realizing what our state needs. And we talk here often, especially lately, of the ways in which transformative partners between P-12 and higher education can sustain more high quality pathways such as teacher residencies. But our legislators need to continue to do more if we're to realize these ambitions. Ambitions like countries like tiny Singapore understood 30 years ago. When I started my career in teacher education, it was with a move to Singapore. It ended up being a defining moment in my career and personal life for many reasons. At the time, Singapore wanted to transform their education system. They invested gobs of money in this, the likes of which we can't fathom in our impoverished system of teacher education. Yes, we have an impoverished system of teacher education. Singapore was also interested in bringing in alternative perspectives to bear on their work, hence why I was hired I don't know whether I helped, but I certainly learned a lot, and we certainly worked together on a lot of important things, I believe. Anyway, when I started teaching at the National Institute of Education, which is essentially the only teacher preparation institution in Singapore, new teachers were offered a salary on par with beginning teachers during their preparation. They received this salary. This was in the 90s. And that salary, new teachers' salary, was on par with what new engineers earned. My husband at the time was an engineer from the US. This was a coveted and lucrative position to have. Singapore understood the need to invest in their teachers, and they did it with service scholarships. That was the salary that they were paid. That covered the entirety of their preparation to teach. And they've been doing it since I was there, almost 30 years they've been doing this. The service scholarships mean they receive the money to prepare to teach, and they commit to at least 5 years to teaching in the classroom. Why are we still so far behind in this thinking? Money matters. I recently read an op-ed in the New York Times. This came out in late May, and the title of it was "The Case for Paying All Teachers 6 Figures." It was written by a woman, her name is Colette Coleman, and she wrote, "Years ago, when I quit my Wall Street job to teach in the Los Angeles Unified School District, I thought, as the culture has taught us all, that a pay cut was just the cost of following a calling, a reduction taken to do meaningful work. I soon learned I was wrong. Working in Los Angeles, I saw how poor compensation affects teacher performance and thus kids' learning. When the bell rang at 3, my students busted out of the building, but the second part of my day was just beginning. I'd stay after school to help students grade papers, plan lessons, and call parents. Then I'd trek to tutor in beachside homes. This work was much easier than teaching in my crowded classroom, yet I got paid a lot more per hour. Working in an under-resourced school and preparing effective lessons for middle school math, science, and history classes each year with over 30 students of varying reading and English abilities was taxing enough. My perpetual state of exhaustion and money-related stress made it even worse. The financial concerns so many teachers face also serve as a tax on their attention. For me, when unanticipated bills appear, I'd spend a lot of my energy wondering how I'd pay them, which sometimes made it hard to stay present with my students." Ms. Coleman explains in this article that she left her job in California for a teacher position in Indonesia. And she says, "My new school wanted to attract top talent, so it paid accordingly. Given the fair salary and favorable exchange rate, I lived well. With this new financial freedom, my opinion of teaching improved. And my performance soared. I didn't mind staying late to plan intricate lessons or help students because there was no second job I had to run off to." Why am I talking about teacher pay, something that the Commission has no jurisdiction over? Because we can't do our part to increase the number of teachers and diversify the number of teachers in our state without others doing their part. The most important thing that we need to do, I believe, is keep our eye on what our children need, and that's our teachers and administrators and all certificated personnel who our students and families depend on to be the best prepared and to have the best supports to do what our children need. But we have to pay special attention to our prospective educators. We need to ensure that quality individuals have access to high quality options for learning to teach. And a lot of our agenda items today and in the past and in the future will be about access. Again, what Singapore did 30 years ago with prospective teachers is something similar to the service scholarships that we have under our Golden State Teacher Grant program. So back in the US and our aspiring teachers, if our teachers are not well supported, what do they have to look forward in their preparation journey? Here are some snippets from a fantastic playlist that was recently published on May 3rd by the Learning Policy Institute called "Building a Strong and Diverse Teaching Profession." If you have some time over the summer to understand this, I highly recommend it. Take a peek. One of the areas of the playlist talks about what it costs for aspiring teachers. More than two-thirds, it says, more than two-thirds of future teachers take out student loans to fund their preparation. The high cost of college combined with teachers' expected low salaries has contributed to a steady decline in enrollment in teacher prep programs over the past 10 years and a shortage of qualified teachers. The cost of teacher preparation, the potential debt incurred are even more significant barriers standing between future teachers of color in the classroom. The burden of student debt is another factor depressing the available supply of future teachers, and importantly, future teachers of color. Average student debt ranges from $20,000 to $50,000 for individuals entering the field of education. I can absolutely say with certainty that as a program director for 14 years, I saw student debt on par with this and even more, way more in California for people who are going into a field earning a teacher's salary. So here we are at the end of an unprecedented budget cycle, and it ain't over yet. What are our legislators investing in prospective teachers? In addition to the grant programs we'll discuss later in our agenda item, I want to focus on the service scholarships in the form of the Golden State Teachers Grant. If you're not familiar with it, the Golden State Grant provides $20,000 service scholarship for aspiring teachers to teach in high needs areas. And these currently include bilingual education, STEM, special ed, and multiple subject and TK, and other subjects that we, the commission, will designate annually as high need. And there's a service commitment of 5 years to teach after receiving this. We have learned that bits and pieces of funding isn't enough. So a $20,000 grant, the Golden State Teacher Grant program initially received $100 million one-time funding back in January. And with the May revise, we saw a $400 million one-time funding. So $500 million over 5 years, which would support a combined total of about 25,000 grants for new teachers. After going through the legislature, unfortunately, that commitment was lowered to $200 million for 5 years, and with no more than $100 million to be spent in a fiscal year. So at the moment, that means about 10,000 total aspiring teachers with this funding. This is helpful, but it's not yet meeting the gap I just talked about. The grant programs we're going to hear about will help, but we really do need to do more. I'm going to finish by saying when the May revise came out, I was so elated and hopeful at seeing that finally, in my 30 years in teacher education, our state was putting real funding into the importance of well-prepared teachers. The reduction from the May revise was deflating to me, and I'm hoping that we're going to see more commitment in the coming months. As your chair, I'll work with all to implement the gifts we've been granted and to do so with what we have. It's what our teachers do. But I do implore our legislators to do more. We have an opportunity to change the course of an impoverished system. Small loans here and there, piecemeal funding, these don't build robust opportunities to become a teacher. For teachers from low-income backgrounds to truly access high-quality preparation, they need the assurances from the get-go that if they qualify to begin learning to teach, they will be supported in that effort. All right, finally, I just want to say that I think everyone in this room knows educators, like parents, have something in common. When you are one, you pull something deep down inside to make it through, and you just can't give up. You can't give up on kids. But sometimes educators just, it's too much. And we have asked so much of our educators this year. And my request is that we show them that we understand the importance of their profession and we put our money where our mouth is. Thank you for bearing with me today, and let's continue our meeting and our work.